What if 4 ordinary-looking pennies could be worth thousands, or even over $100,000? Most people would spend them without a second thought, never realizing the hidden secrets they carry. Today, we're revealing 4 incredible Lincoln Wheat cents that shocked collectors with rare eras, fascinating history, and life-changing discoveries. Watch closely, because one tiny detail could turn an ordinary penny into an extraordinary treasure. A collector once walked into a major coin auction carrying what looked like an ordinary 1918 Lincoln Wheat cent that had spent decades tucked away in an old family collection. Few people in the room expected much from a 1-cent coin with such a familiar design, but after careful grading revealed an extraordinary level of preservation. Bidding escalated beyond anyone's expectations until the tiny copper coin reached an astonishing price close to $80,000. That remarkable sale stunned experienced collectors and reminded the entire hobby that history sometimes hides in the smallest objects imaginable. It also raises an irresistible question. If one ordinary-looking cent can surprise an auction room filled with experts, how many more have quietly passed through everyday hands without anyone realizing what they were holding? Today, we're uncovering the incredible story behind the United States 1918 Lincoln Wheat cent, a coin that has spent generations blending into pocket change, while quietly building one of the most fascinating reputations in American numismatics. At first glance, the 1918 Lincoln Wheat cent appears almost too familiar to deserve a second look. Abraham Lincoln's calm portrait dominates the front, while 2 graceful wheat ears frame the reverse, creating a design that symbolized prosperity, growth, and the determination of a nation moving through one of the most demanding chapters in its history. The coin circulated during a period when the United States was changing rapidly, and every cent represented purchasing power that mattered to ordinary families. Millions were struck and spent without ceremony, slipping through grocery stores, rail stations, local markets, and factory payrolls. Yet time has a strange way of transforming common objects into treasured artifacts, especially when only a tiny fraction survive untouched by decades of circulation. Every scratch tells a story, every worn detail reflects countless exchanges, and every unusually sharp example becomes another clue in the search for hidden rarity. One of the most intriguing details surrounding the 1918 issue involves the subtle return of designer Victor David Brenner's initials. Earlier controversies had pushed those initials away from public attention, but beginning in 1918, they quietly reappeared in a discreet position on Lincoln's shoulder, so small that many owners never noticed them. The tiny signature became an important historical detail, separating earlier pieces from later ones, and gave observant collectors another feature to study. Unlike flashy commemorative coins, the 1918 wheat cent rewards patience. It doesn't reveal its secrets immediately. Instead, it invites careful observation, rewarding people willing to slow down and notice the smallest differences that casual users overlook. That quiet mystery has helped keep collector fascination alive for more than a century. What truly captivates specialists, however, is the remarkable variety found among surviving examples. Coins from Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco each developed their own personalities through differences in strike quality, die wear, and production conditions. Some display unusually bold wheat lines and crisp lettering, while others show softer details caused by agging dies. Collectors also search for fascinating mint errors, including doubled letters, off-center strikes, broad strikes with expanded rims, clipped planchets, die cracks, and dramatic misalignments that transformed an everyday cent into an unforgettable conversation piece. These unusual characteristics weren't created intentionally. They were born during the demanding pace of production, leaving behind accidental signatures that today make certain pieces dramatically more desirable than their ordinary counterparts. For decades, countless families unknowingly spent these cents during routine purchases, never imagining that one unusual example might eventually become worth far more than its face value. Estate sales, forgotten piggy banks, inherited collections, and dusty wooden drawers have all produced astonishing discoveries. There are stories of grandchildren sorting through old jars simply out of curiosity, before realizing that one coin looked just a little different from the rest. Others have found remarkable examples hidden inside envelopes labeled only with a date. Those moments capture the true excitement of coin collecting because they remind us that extraordinary discoveries rarely announce themselves. Instead, they wait quietly for someone observant enough to notice what everyone else ignored. As interest in rare Lincoln cents continued growing, exceptional 1918 pieces began attracting serious competition whenever they appeared at respected auctions. Coins featuring important mint errors or extraordinary preservation have reached the $5,000 range, while rarer combinations of condition, originality, and eye appeal have climbed dramatically higher through competitive bidding or carefully negotiated private sales. The excitement isn't driven simply by age. It comes from rarity, authenticity, and the realization that only a handful of examples possess the exact characteristics advanced collectors spend years trying to acquire. Every new discovery has the potential to rewrite expectations, making each examination feel like the beginning of another remarkable story. That possibility is exactly why experts encourage patience instead of excitement whenever an unusual coin appears. Before assuming you've discovered something extraordinary, examine the weight carefully, compare the metal color under natural light, study the strike alignment, inspect the rim for unusual expansion, and look closely for genuine letter doubling rather than ordinary wear or damage. Small differences can completely change a coin's significance, but appearances alone are never enough. A professional authentication service can distinguish between a valuable mint-made characteristic and damage created after the coin entered circulation. Rushing to sell without expert confirmation has caused countless owners to miss opportunities that could have changed the outcome entirely. The 1918 Lincoln Wheat cent proves that history often hides inside the simplest designs, waiting for someone curious enough to recognize what others overlook. A single penny can preserve a century of craftsmanship, economic history, and remarkable human stories, while carrying the possibility of surprising value that few people would ever expect. Whether your coin is worth only sentimental memories or becomes one of those extraordinary examples that commands prices approaching $80,000, the real adventure begins with careful observation and informed decisions rather than quick assumptions. And if you think this remarkable cent has an unbelievable story, wait until you see the second coin in today's journey, because its hidden history may be even more astonishing than the first. The story begins with a collector who almost ignored a worn-looking Lincoln Wheat cent while sorting through an old coffee tin inherited from a relative. It looked no different from dozens of other pennies collected over generations, but one detail caught his attention just before he tossed it aside. After sending the coin for professional grading, experts confirmed it possessed an exceptionally rare combination of preservation and mint characteristics. When it finally appeared at auction, determined bidders pushed the price into six figures, proving once again that an ordinary-looking penny can completely rewrite someone's future. Moments like these remind us that history doesn't always shine brightly at first glance. Sometimes it waits quietly inside the smallest coin, hidden until the right person notices what everyone else overlooked. That brings us to the remarkable United States 1936 Lincoln Wheat cent, a coin whose appearance suggests simplicity, while its true story reveals decades of mystery, craftsmanship, and unforgettable discoveries. Long before the 1936 issue entered circulation, the Lincoln cent had already changed American coinage forever. Its introduction marked the first time a real historical figure appeared on a regularly circulating United States coin, replacing the long tradition of symbolic figures that had dominated earlier designs. That bold decision reshaped the appearance of everyday money and gave millions of Americans a portrait they instantly recognized. By 1936, the design had become familiar across the country, yet each new year carried subtle differences that reflected changing production methods, die preparation, and mint practices. The result was a coin that blended into daily commerce while quietly preserving another chapter of American history beneath its modest copper surface. One of the most fascinating chapters surrounding the Lincoln cent involves the famous VDB initials of designer Victor David Brenner. When the design first appeared years earlier, the initials sparked unexpected public criticism because many believed they were displayed too prominently. The debate became so intense that officials quickly removed them, creating one of the most talked-about controversies in United States coin history. Eventually, the initials returned in a much smaller and less noticeable location near Lincoln's shoulder, where they remained almost invisible to casual observers. By 1936, that tiny signature had become part of the coin's identity, rewarding careful collectors who understood its historical importance, while adding another layer of intrigue to an already beloved design. The 1936 Lincoln Wheat cent also attracts attention because of the remarkable differences that emerged from the various mints producing these pennies. Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco each created coins with their own distinctive characteristics, influenced by die preparation, striking pressure, and production demands. Collectors search tirelessly for examples showing crisp wheat ears, sharply defined lettering, and original mint luster that survived decades of circulation. Even more exciting are genuine mint errors such as doubled lettering, off-center strikes, broad strikes with expanded rims, die cracks, and dramatic die misalignments. These fascinating imperfections transformed ordinary production pieces into highly sought-after collectibles, giving every newly examined coin the possibility of revealing an unexpected surprise. Perhaps the greatest excitement comes from stories of people who unknowingly spent valuable coins before realizing what they had possessed. Some legendary discoveries began inside forgotten piggy banks, old family albums, cigar boxes, and dusty desk drawers where wheat cents rested unnoticed for generations. Others were rescued from bank rolls purchased simply for fun, with a single remarkable penny hiding among hundreds of common examples. These stories continue inspiring collectors because they prove extraordinary finds rarely announce themselves with obvious clues. Instead, they reward patience, curiosity, and the willingness to examine familiar objects with fresh eyes, knowing that history often disguises itself as something completely ordinary. As demand for exceptional Lincoln Wheat cents increased, the finest 1936 examples began attracting extraordinary attention from advanced collectors. Coins displaying important mint errors or remarkable preservation have reached values around $5,000, while scarcer varieties with outstanding eye appeal have climbed steadily through competitive auctions and carefully negotiated private sales. At the highest level, extraordinary examples combining exceptional condition, undeniable rarity, and significant mint characteristics have achieved prices approaching $120,000. Those impressive results reflect far more than age alone. They represent a combination of rarity, historical significance, originality, and collector competition that only a tiny number of surviving coins can satisfy. If you believe you've discovered an unusual 1936 Lincoln Wheat cent, resist the temptation to celebrate too quickly or sell it immediately. Begin by examining the metal tone under consistent lighting, looking for natural surfaces rather than altered color. Study the strike clarity across Lincoln's portrait and the wheat ears, inspect the rim for unusual expansion or distortion, and carefully evaluate the die alignment for genuine mint-made characteristics instead of post-mint damage. Every tiny detail contributes to the coin's identity, and even experienced collectors rely on professional authentication before making important decisions. Expert evaluation can separate an ordinary circulated penny from a truly exceptional collectible, whose importance may not be obvious at first glance. The United States 1936 Lincoln Wheat cent reminds us that remarkable stories are often hidden inside the coins people overlook every single day. It carries the legacy of an iconic design, echoes one of the most famous controversies in American numismatic history, and continues inspiring collectors with the possibility that another extraordinary discovery may still be waiting in an old collection or forgotten jar. Whether it ultimately proves to be a cherished family keepsake or one of the rare examples that has reached prices near $120,000, its greatest value begins with careful observation and professional authentication rather than rushed decisions. And now that we've uncovered the hidden secrets of this unforgettable penny, it's time to turn our attention to the third coin, whose incredible journey may be the most surprising story of them all. A seasoned collector once purchased what seemed to be an ordinary group of Lincoln Wheat Pennies at a regional auction, expecting nothing more than a few additions to an album. Hidden among them was a remarkable era coin that specialists later identified as an exceptionally unusual die-break variety. After professional authentication and intense bidding from advanced collectors, the coin sold for an astonishing six-figure amount, proving once again that the smallest pieces of history can produce the biggest surprises. Stories like that continue to fuel the dreams of collectors everywhere because they remind us that remarkable treasures rarely announce themselves. They wait quietly inside forgotten jars, inherited collections, and old coin envelopes until someone takes a closer look. That brings us to the unforgettable 1946 Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin that appears completely ordinary at first glance, but carries one of the most fascinating stories hidden within the Lincoln Cent series. The 1946 Lincoln Wheat Penny entered circulation during a period when the United States was returning to normal life after World War II. The mint had resumed striking cents using the familiar bronze alloy after the unusual wartime changes of previous years, giving these coins their rich reddish appearance that collectors still admire today. Produced at the Denver Mint, millions entered daily commerce, buying newspapers, candy, and train tickets without attracting the slightest attention. Yet among those countless pennies, subtle differences began appearing because no die lasts forever. Every strike placed tremendous pressure on hardened steel dies, and over time those tools developed tiny fractures that quietly changed the appearance of certain coins in ways few people noticed during the moment they were created. One of the most intriguing stories connected with this issue revolves around an unusual die break that collectors often describe as creating a three-legged appearance in part of the design. Unlike damage that occurs after a coin leaves the mint, this feature originated while the working die itself was beginning to fail. As metal flowed into every corner of the fractured die, portions of the design weakened or disappeared, producing an appearance so unusual that many owners initially assumed the coin had simply been worn down. In reality, these dramatic die failures became fingerprints of the mint's production process, preserving the exact moment when steel fatigue transformed an ordinary striking into something collectors would remember for generations. That mysterious appearance explains why the 1946 continues attracting so much attention today. Advanced collectors enjoy comparing examples under magnification, searching for raised die breaks, unusual metal flow, crisp wheat ears, bold lettering, and tiny characteristics that distinguish authentic mint-made varieties from ordinary circulation damage. Every genuine die break tells a story about the enormous mechanical forces involved in producing billions of pennies. Even coins struck only moments apart can display completely different personalities depending on how the die changed during production. That constant possibility of discovering an overlooked variety keeps the hunt exciting, even after decades of careful study. Some of the most unforgettable discoveries began almost by accident. Families cleaning old homes have uncovered forgotten rolls tucked inside drawers. Children inherited dusty coin albums without realizing their significance. Hobbyists searching through bank rolls have suddenly paused after noticing one coin looked just a little different from the rest. Many legendary finds nearly ended in disappointment because someone almost spent the coin before curiosity won. Those near misses have become part of collecting folklore, reminding everyone that extraordinary opportunities are often separated from ordinary moments by nothing more than a careful second look. Only after collectors recognized these unusual characteristics did remarkable values begin appearing in auctions and private transactions. Strong examples featuring significant die break features or exceptional preservation have reached the $5,000 level, while increasingly dramatic errors, outstanding eye appeal, and elite certified grades have climbed steadily through competitive bidding. The rarest combinations of condition, originality, and unique mint-made characteristics have reportedly approached $120,000 in notable auction results or carefully negotiated private sales. Those impressive prices reflect rarity rather than age alone, proving that the smallest production differences can dramatically influence collector demand. You happen to own a 1946 Lincoln Wheat Penny. Patience is your greatest advantage. Study the coin under proper lighting and examine every detail carefully. Look for unusual die breaks that create missing or distorted design elements. Observe the natural metal color instead of clean surfaces. Inspect the strike quality across Lincoln's portrait and the wheat stalks. Check that the rim remains complete and undisturbed, and pay close attention to the sharpness of every letter. Finally, evaluate whether the overall design alignment appears consistent with a genuine mint-made variety. Even experienced collectors avoid making conclusions from photographs alone, because professional authentication remains the most reliable way to determine authenticity and true market significance. The 1946 Lincoln Wheat Penny reminds us that history often hides inside the coins people overlook every single day. What appears to be another common penny may actually preserve an extraordinary chapter of mint craftsmanship, mechanical failure, and collector fascination that has endured for generations. Whether your discovery becomes a treasured family keepsake or one of the rare examples that commands astonishing prices, the greatest reward always begins with careful observation, thoughtful research, and expert authentication instead of rushed decisions. And now that we've uncovered the hidden mystery behind this remarkable wheat penny, it's time to move forward to our fourth coin, where an entirely different secret is waiting to challenge everything you think you know about everyday change. A remarkable story from the coin collecting world began when a small group of Lincoln cents, tucked away in an old family collection for decades, was finally examined by professional graders before being offered at auction. Among them was a rare error cent that initially looked no different from the others, yet its extraordinary preservation and unusual mint-made characteristics quickly captured the attention of experienced bidders. As the auction progressed, the price climbed into six figures, astonishing everyone watching and proving that an ordinary-looking penny can become an extraordinary historical treasure. Stories like this continue to inspire collectors because they remind us that incredible discoveries often hide in plain sight, waiting for someone patient enough to notice the smallest detail. That leads us to the United States 1953 Lincoln Wheat Cent, a coin that quietly circulated through everyday life while concealing one of the most fascinating mysteries in the Lincoln Cent series. PCGS.com. By 1953, the Denver Mint was producing enormous numbers of Lincoln Wheat Cents to satisfy the nation's growing demand for small change. High-speed production meant working dies endured tremendous pressure every day, and even the smallest variation during die preparation could leave lasting fingerprints on thousands of coins. During the process of creating working dies, tiny alignment shifts occasionally occurred between impressions, and although quality control eliminated most flawed dies before they reached production, a handful escaped detection. Those rare moments created subtle double details that fascinated future generations of collectors because they represented genuine pieces of mint history rather than damage caused after circulation. Most people spent these pennies without a second glance, completely unaware that a few possessed characteristics unlike the millions surrounding them. The visual doubling found on certain 1953 Lincoln Wheat Cents is especially captivating because it often rewards careful observation instead of immediate recognition. Rather than appearing dramatic from across the room, the doubling becomes visible as letters, numbers, or design elements reveal delicate secondary outlines under magnification. To someone unfamiliar with mint errors, the coin may simply appear slightly unusual. To an experienced collector, however, those tiny separations can signal an important production variety worthy of much closer examination. That quiet mystery is exactly what keeps the hunt alive, because every ordinary-looking cent carries the possibility of revealing something extraordinary when examined with patience and knowledge. Another reason this coin remains so memorable is its surprising scarcity in everyday circulation. Decades of spending, collecting, and melting gradually removed many original examples from the marketplace, while truly attractive pieces became increasingly difficult to locate. Collectors searching through rolls of pennies, inherited jars, and forgotten albums often spend years hopping to encounter one displaying authentic doubled features along with strong original surfaces. Every genuine discovery adds another chapter to the story of a coin that continues challenging even experienced numismatists, proving that rarity is often determined not by mintage alone, but by survival, preservation, and unmistakable mint-made characteristics. Some of the hobby's most unforgettable moments have begun with coins almost discarded as ordinary pocket change. One collector noticed a slight doubling while sorting pennies late at night. Another rescued an overlooked cent from a family coin jar moments before it was taken to the bank. And others have described the unforgettable feeling of realizing that a coin held for years possessed an important characteristic they had never noticed before. Those stories remind us that remarkable discoveries rarely happen through luck alone. They happen because curiosity encourages someone to pause, inspect carefully, and ask whether a familiar object might actually hold an unfamiliar secret. As collector demand continued growing, exceptional examples of the 1953 Lincoln Wheat cent began attracting increasingly competitive attention whenever they appeared in major auctions or significant private transactions. Coins displaying noticeable doubled features, outstanding originality, and strong certified grades have achieved values around $5,000, while scarcer combinations of eye appeal and preservation have climbed much higher through determined bidding. The finest and most unusual examples, particularly those combining dramatic era characteristics with exceptional condition, have approached $120,000 in documented sales or important private agreements. Those impressive prices reflect the perfect meeting of rarity, authenticity, collector enthusiasm, and historical importance rather than simple age alone. PCGS.com. If you believe you've discovered a promising 1953 Lincoln Wheat cent, take your time before making any decisions. Carefully examine the suspected doubling using proper magnification instead of relying on casual observation. Study the overall strike depth to see whether important design details remain sharp. Inspect the rim for consistent shape and uninterrupted edges. Evaluate the natural metal tone for signs of originality, and compare every unusual feature against trusted references. Remember that cleaning, circulation wear, or machine doubling can easily imitate more valuable characteristics. The wisest step is always professional verification, because expert authentication provides the confidence needed to understand exactly what you've found before considering any sale. The United States 1953 Lincoln Wheat cent proves that extraordinary stories often hide inside the smallest pieces of everyday history. What appears to be nothing more than another old penny can preserve a fascinating moment from the mint's production process, while offering the possibility of an unforgettable discovery for someone willing to look closely. Whether your coin ultimately becomes a cherished family heirloom or an authenticated rarity worth far more than anyone expected, the true excitement lies in the search itself and the knowledge gained along the way. If you enjoy uncovering hidden stories behind everyday coins and want to continue exploring remarkable discoveries together, consider subscribing to the channel and joining us for the next adventure, where another ordinary-looking coin may reveal an even more astonishing secret.